In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the process of recreating this motocross wheel for the Motocross Mom design. When I did this design originally, I had a misspelling, which Keith pointed out for me, and it said Motocross with an R, so Motorcross, and it's Motocross. And of course I knew that, but it was late when I did it. So anyhow, once we remove the R, then of course for me, I think the wheel is too big for the design. At least the design isn't what I originally had envisioned. So we're going to make a small change to our wheel, but also sometimes, once you've completed design, you think, well, there's better ways to do things, and we're going to make a couple of changes as well. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take the Motocross Mom part of the design, and I'm just going to make a duplicate over here. So I've just selected it, dragged it over, hit my right mouse button, and that makes a duplicate. Now we're going to group this together. So now that's grouped together. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create our wheel. So here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to draw a straight line across the page like this. Doesn't have to be maybe quite so wide. So let's draw a straight line like this. And let's just move this line down into position where we want it for our motocross. Let's center this line to our text. So select them both and hit C on our keyboard. That will center things horizontally. All right, so now with that in place, our next thing that we want to do is we want to go ahead and create our circle. So I'm just going to grab our ellipse tool here in Corel Draw, drag out a circle, and the circle I want to be smaller than the width of my text. So let's take our circle and our text and center those. And you can see now where in the revised design, the wheel, the tire, if you will, is almost as wide as motocross, where in this design, I didn't want it to be quite so wide. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my shift key and just drag it down. And that's about how I want it to be. So I want it to be definitely smaller than the text itself. All right, so then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and offset this line. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our stone fill tab, and I'm going to offset it 5 times and hit island fill. And this is going to represent our tire. Now let's go and take a look at a reference image here in Google Images. In this reference image that I picked up, this is of course a motocross bike. In the reference image that I picked up, we've got our knobby tires. But I also want to do something special to kind of emphasize this rim. Also in the original design I did not have a valve stem. So we'll add that. And notice the spoke pattern. We have kind of this V that's intersected by the circle of our sprocket. And then we have a smaller V. Now if we go back and look at our original design, we don't have all those elements. You can see we have the sprocket, but we don't have that larger V in here. And also there's really nothing differentiating the tire from the rim. Okay, and there's a couple of different ways that we could handle that, and we'll kind of talk about that just a little bit. Yes, I tend to be very particular about the designs that I create, but I think that's what is ultimately going to set you apart from the competition. There's so many people out there doing rhinestones, but what you'll find is, and what I see anyhow, is I see lots and lots of things getting put on t-shirts that could definitely be done better. And if you have the skills and take the time to create a better design than the guy down the street, even if you're a little bit more money, you're probably going to get that extra business because you're producing a better quality product. And that's really what it's all about, producing a better quality product. So let's talk about some of the different ways that we could maybe differentiate from the rim and the tire. I have a couple ideas in mind that I didn't really think of when I originally did this original design. But now that I'm going to do this new design, there's definitely some things that I want to try. All right, so one of the things that I want to try, in the original design, we used all one stone size. And so in this design, the rim is going to consist of SS16 stones. And then what we're going to do is we're going to provide a tiny little gap. There's already a tiny little gap between stones, but we're going to emphasize the distance between SS16 and SS10 with a little bit of extra gap. And I think that will help emphasize the fact that we have a rim. So let's just see how it goes. So we have these 5 lines are going to represent, actually I think there's 6 lines that are going to represent the tire. Then this line here, what we're going to do is we're going to offset it, but we're going to offset it an extra millimeter. So let's go ahead and offset it 4.9. We're going to go inside 1. So 1 island fill to the inside. And we're going to change our stone size here. And then we're going to actually offset 1 more. And we'll do island fill again. Now, let's see what this actually looks like. So for these first 2 lines, let's go ahead and add stones to those. And then for these lines here, let's go ahead and add SS10 stones to those. Let's go ahead and throw this on a weed box here so we can see this a little bit better. But do you see that little extra gap between those two? Maybe you like that, maybe you don't. I think I like it. I think I'm gonna leave it just the way it is. But that extra little gap will kind of separate the tire and the rim a little bit and just kind of give it a little bit of extra emphasis. And like I said, I think once the design is complete, it'll stand out even more and ultimately make for a better design. Okay, so we're just gonna back up a couple of steps here. Let's tell you what, let's get rid of our weed box. Let's go ahead and clear out those stones, because we're not ready for stones yet. We're just kind of getting to that point. All right, so the next thing then is obviously to create our sprocket, wherever we want our sprocket to be. And let's do, I don't know, let's do something like that. So I'm just gonna scale it down, right click to make a duplicate, like so. And then like before, we're gonna go with, we're gonna start off with SS16 stones. So we'll go ahead and offset 1 island fill. And then from here, we're going to offset, I'll tell you what, let me back up a step here. We're going to offset 4.4 and 1 offset. Then we're going to offset 3.9s, and I think we can do 2 3.9s. So that is going to be our center sprocket. All right, so then the next thing to do then is to go ahead and create our spokes. Now this is the part that's a little bit more complicated. So what we're going to kind of do is just kind of come over here, just in an area that's blank, and we're just going to draw out a spoke, like so. And then what we're going to do is take that spoke, and we're going to flip it over, make a duplicate of it. And really the idea here is to give you, obviously, you're not going to want to recreate this tire. Okay, but really the point here is to show you the process, the different tools we're using in CorelDRAW, the different tools that we're using here in EasyStone to help us facilitate the design that we want to create. And once you understand that process, I think you'll get a better appreciation of what all goes into creating a great looking design, but also different ways that you can use tools that maybe you didn't think of. All right, so now that we have this design here, if you go back to our reference image, this angle of the spoke is different. So what I would do is just, let's come back over here into CorelDRAW. So what I would do is just go ahead and click on that and see that shear option. Just give it a different angle. It doesn't need to be like real significantly different, but just different. And then flip it over, and we need to crisscross these a little bit. Something like that, okay? So then we have 2 groups of spokes here, basically. We're going to group the first group together. We're going to group this group together. We're going to hold both and hit C on our keyboard. And now you can see that is going to become our spoke. So then what we're doing is just kind of place it over here, wherever we think it makes sense. Now there's some things that I can see right off. Where this is crisscrossing, it's too high up. So let's go ahead and make a couple of changes. Let's go ahead and, first of all, let's group that group together. Hit this circle and hit C for center. That will center it left to right. Then what we're going to do is we're going to push this group up, like so, and then we're going to ungroup, right-click and ungroup, and then this group of spokes, we're going to push it down so where that crossing happens is closer to our sprocket, okay? Because that would be more realistic in, you know, on a real tire. All right, so let's go ahead and take the outside spokes, the inside spokes, group those back together again. And now we have this group that now we can go ahead and begin combining things together. So we're just going to click on that. See that rotation handle right here? It's right there. We're going to pull it down so it's in the center, and then just right-click to make a duplicate. Right? We're going to right-click to make a duplicate here. We're going to pull this up, right-click to make a duplicate, and we need one more over here. Right-click to make a duplicate. So now you can kind of see how we have those spokes. But now here's a problem. We're getting all this crisscrossing going on, and we can't have that. So we have to back up a few steps. Okay? And we have to ungroup the group. And we have to push these two outer spokes closer together. Okay? So let's find, there's that group. Let's ungroup again. So these two outer spokes right here, we need to push those closer together, like so. Select them both, group them back together again. Take this center group of spokes, hit C for center, and so now we have a new defined group. Okay, so let's go ahead and group those together again. Again, click on them, move that rotation point down, and now let's see what we get. So we're going to copy there, and see now we're not getting that overlap. So that's good. There we go. All right. So yeah, it looks a bit messy right now, but we're going to clean this up pretty easily. So let's go ahead and pull this away here. We don't need our Motocross mom text, and that was grouped together, so we can just select it and delete it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the whole design, group it together, then right-click and ungroup it all. Okay? So now all these pieces are just individual pieces. So what do we need to do here? Well, I'm going to select this inside circle, come to my editing tab and mark that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of my spokes. Okay? I'm going to select some of them and click on trim. And what you'll see here when I do that, what will happen, we'll show you here momentarily. So I think we took care of, no, we didn't trim that. So let's select our circle again, mark it. We'll select these spokes and we'll trim. We'll select our circle and mark it. And then let's select the rest of these spokes. So we're going to select those two, hold our shift key down, those two, those two, those two, those two, those two, and those two. So you can see by holding down our shift key, we're selecting all of those things there. And we're going to trim all of those too. Okay? Then we're going to kind of do the same thing to this circle right here. Let me make it a different color so we can see it. Maybe a different color. There you go. That orange circle, we're going to mark it. And then we're going to kind of do the same thing. Okay? Let's go ahead and just start in by selecting our first two lines, holding our shift key, and just kind of selecting those two lines. Shift key and the Alt key, Shift key and the Alt key, all the way around. You'll see what we get here momentarily. So we've done that. Let's trim that. And now we can just start deleting lines that we don't need. So we don't need these two. And so you can see what we're doing. We're trimming all these lines back to that orange line first. So just holding down my Alt key, dragging a little marquee, deleting those. Deletes it all the way back. Let's see here. This line, we don't need that line, or this one, or this one, or this one. And then we're going to zoom in here a little bit, and all these lines on the inside here, we're going to just carefully delete. Okay, and I'm just clicking on one at a time here. Make sure we don't delete those extra circles. But you can see, because we use this as a trim object, we'll go ahead and make it orange too. Everything to the inside, those lines were trimmed back to that point. Okay, so yeah, we can. All right, so we have that. So now we have one more trim to make, and that's the horizontal line. So we'll go ahead and let's see what we got going here. Yep, we could do that. We'll mark those two, select our circles, we'll trim those back. Then we can delete those. That takes care of that. Here's our mark. We'll select these circles and trim those back. And we can delete those. And then this line here, I guess we'll go ahead and trim it back too. Let's go ahead and mark it, and then we'll trim that line. We'll mark this horizontal line, and then we will trim this one. So where this is overlapping, we'll go ahead and get rid of it as well. So now we can get rid of our horizontal lines because we're not going to use those. And that's our wheel. So you can see it was actually a fair bit of prep work, wasn't it? But at the end of the day, it will make for a nice wheel. So now all we have to do is add our stones. So we're just going to select all those lines, SS10s for those. These two are going to get SS16s, like so. This one is going to get SS16s. These three are getting SS10s. So we'll select those three lines, put it back to SS10s. There you go. Those are SS10s. Now all of our spokes, those are all getting SS6 stones. But what we're going to do is we're going to select the whole lot, the whole design, and we're going to hit delete stone paths to get rid of those. And now we can just select all of our spokes here. There's all of our spokes. Those are getting SS6 stones. So we'll go ahead and click on Add Stones. Now you can kind of see what we've got going on here, where these all these lines are going to crisscross and whatnot. But we'll clean that all up. I think just for simplicity's sake, let's go ahead and take these stones and let's just for a moment give them a different definable color. This will help us with our next step. Okay, because we have stones on top of stones and it's easier to see for our next step. So we're going to go ahead and select those and hit delete stone paths. And what we're going to do here is just come in here and delete the stones that we don't need. So you can see all these ones that are overlapping. We don't need any of those. So we'll just go ahead and dispose of those. Same thing here on the inside. Okay, so that takes care of those. Now we do need to make a small change here where some of these stones, you can see like right here, that's touching. So let's just pull that back where we want it. And then what I would do is just select the first stone and the last stone and hit create selection. That'll select any stone in between and hit H and V. And that will line those back up again. So again, pull that stone down where we need it. Pull this stone up where we need it. Select the first and last stone. And hit H and V. And that will line all those back up again. This is a little bit tight here, so we'll pull that stone down. And I'm just eyeballing it. Pull that stone up. We've created the spacing that we need. H and V. That space is horizontal, vertical is what that's doing. So we'll pull that down. And we'll pull this one up. And this one is a little bit trickier because we have these stones kind of going in this crisscross pattern. So then again, we'll go ahead and hit H and V. And something's got to give here where these are intersecting. So we do have to do something about that. But let's just see how we're going to handle this. and then we'll make a decision here what to do. Because the way this was created, these stones are a little bit tighter together, so it might be a little bit more work for us to get the look that we're looking to get here. Let's see. All right, well, I think what we're going to do here is we're going to take these two stones. We have a function here that will kind of merge stones together. And we're going to merge these stones together like so. And tell you what, these are going to come, decisions here. Where these overlap, what are we going to do here? Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Let's just spread these stones out a little bit. I don't know what's going to look the best. So I'm just going to kind of wing it here a little bit till I get a feel for what's going to look the best. All right, I'm going to make this an SS10 stone. So maybe we'll do something, I don't know if I like that too well. Let's maybe change this about. Let's get rid of, let's spread this apart a little bit more. And this is good that you see this, because sometimes we have an idea and it doesn't work exactly as planned, so we have to just kind of figure it out as we go. So let's go ahead and try this. I think this will work out okay. And we'll spread these apart. All right, and then this will have to merge into one. Okay, so the crisscrossing, that's how it's got to be handled, just like that. And I think that'll look okay in the grand scheme of things. So what we have to kind of do is we have to kind of duplicate that same type of configuration the crisscross here goes. But let's do this. Let's mark a stone. And then let's just select this half of the design and say create selection based on that fill, and we're going to hit delete. Okay, so that will, because there's no point in repeating all that work that we did on this side on the right, because we can just copy it over once we get to that point. So you can see what we're going to do here. We're going to take these two, we're going to merge those to one. That's what the delete overlap tool does. And then we're going to resize to SS16, or I'm sorry, SS10. So that, and then we have to kind of just create this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to delete overlaps. There's two of them here as well, delete overlaps. And then we got to push this stone. So we're going to push it over here. This one we're going to delete. And then, let's see what we're going to do here. Let's see what we did here. So we have two. All right, let's try it. Let's see if we can make it fit. I think what we're actually going to do is delete this, push this up here, and then we're going to push this out here like so. I think that's what we're going to do. So we're going to select these and H and V, and then we'll take a look and see what we've got here. And we're going to mirror this like so. Yep. And delete overlaps. All right, so if we look at this intersection, it's basically the same as that intersection. And I think that'll look fine. You know, you have to kind of give and take when you're working in those really tight spaces. But I think this will look okay. So what we're going to do is go ahead and select one of those stones again, mark it, select, create selection. We're also going to select one of these center stones, and that gives us something to mirror to. That's kind of like an anchor stone. So we're going to anchor it, mirror it over, and then there's that center stone. So if we line it up center to center, you can see everything will kind of fall into place here, or at least it should fall into place like we need it to. So that's good. Although I do see an overlapping stone here that we're going to have to pull down. So let's go ahead and take care of that. H and V again. And then we have to do the same thing over here where it's overlapping as well. And that's a little bit tight on the bottom too. So we might as well fix them both. Right click on create selection, H and V. And then we'll go back over here, pull it up as well. Add that extra little bit of spacing. This is a little bit tight. H and V. That takes care of that. Now, if we make everything back to crystal again, so we'll change all those stones back to crystal. Which that takes care of that. And now let's go ahead and bring over our motocross mom. So there's our motocross mom. Let's go ahead and select our new tire here. Oh, we do have a little bit more work, don't we? We have to make our knobbies on our tire. So let's go ahead and open up our guideline tool. And we'll go to center vertical here, find out where center is. All right, so there's center. So what we're going to do is we're going to go with 2 stones, and then we're going to delete 1. So we're going to go 2 and delete 1. And we're going to do that on both sides. So the original design I went 3 stones per knob, but we're going to do 2 this time. Now look at that, it just happened to work out perfect. So now we have to duplicate that effort on this side. So you can see even a simpler design like this actually takes a little bit of work to get it done right. But if you have a good idea of what you want to do to begin with, it's pretty straightforward to do. Let's go ahead and group our tire together. Let's line them up. C for center, and then what we'll do here is we're going to take this and let's add a weed box. There's our weed box. Let's take our 2 parts of our design and ungroup them, or I guess we'll have to group them together to ungroup all, and then let's just check for any overlapping stones. Always good to do that right at the end. Check spacing. There are 1,544 stones in this design. 26 overlaps. It's a good thing we checked it. I didn't think there would be any. But there we go. And I think what you can see here in the design, the crisscrossing of the spokes is really indicative, obviously, of a motorcycle tire. So I think that looks good. And then also that little bit of extra definition, that tiny little extra, remember we added an extra millimeter of space between the rim and the tire, and the fact that for the rim we're using a different size stone, I think it helps it just pop a little bit more to create a little bit more of an interesting transition there. So I hope you enjoyed this one. And again, the point of this video really wasn't to show you every single step so you can recreate this tire, but just as a broader overview of, okay, this is the general process, the general thought process of creating the design originally, and the different tools that we used in CorelDRAW, the different tools that we used in EasyStone in various different ways to ultimately get the look that we're looking to get. So I hope you learned something from it. I know I kind of went through it a little bit quick, but anyhow, thanks for watching.